This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by Firestarters, available at portageminpress.com.
Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
Welcome to Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre stories get made. I'm here with
Justin Curry of Chasing Artwork.
And Jen Storm.
And Jen Storm is the author of a great graphic novel, illustrated by Scott Henderson and colored by Donovan Yachik. We never know how to pronounce your name, Donovan. I'm sorry. She is a graphic novelist who has decided that she doesn't need any artists anymore. She's going to do her own art from now on. And so we've started talking about some ways to do that. And she's going to talk to us about her creative process today. So I have some questions for you, Jenny. Ready?
Yes. Sir.
You're on the spot.
Yes.
Okay.
Hot seat.
Why comics?
Originally, I didn't make the connection of comics. I've always been artistic, but like a hobbyist, naturally, back then. And then I was approached by Highwater Press to do a comic. And at first, I didn't really understand what that would be like. But they really took me under the wing and kind of explained how comics work, gave me a lot of comics to study, and then from there I got really excited.
So they knew your writing? They knew your writing?
They knew my writing,
right.
Because I was traditionally a writer. So I've done a couple articles, I've written a book. My big thing was I wrote a book when I was 14 that got published. So a lot of people kind of remember me as this 14-year-old girl, like forever.
Right.
Hold
on just a second.
Jen.
What's with all of
the theme of this show is bringing on people who got their
Science
figured out
way before us. Way before we ever did.
Their things figured out long before we did.
Yeah.
It's like last week we had
Edrin. Yeah.
Who started doing Comic-Cons when he was 17, and then before that Scott Ford published his first graphic novel right out of high school at 17, 18.
Yeah. So from now on, we're only going to bring on old codgers.
Yeah.
So we feel like we've done some things properly.
Well, I actually feel like I wish I knew about this sooner, because then I would have taken art a lot more seriously. Because growing up, because I was around so many non-artists, I have a lot of voices telling me, that's a great hobby, but don't waste your time, basically. And like, you need to concentrate on doing like accounting or like native studies, or do something like, focus more on like humanities and job paying things. Yeah. And art was always seen as like, you do it on the side to like de-stress, but you can never make money doing it, so don't bother.
Right.
So I wish I had that growing up, or even just the knowledge, I guess, of graphic novels, because I think I would have done this a lot sooner.
Right.
But because of Highwater, I got to make the connection, and then I got really excited about bringing in art to my writing, which for some reason just never clicked until now, basically, that I could do it.
Right.
So then that's why I've been kind of like full-fledged onto it now.
So tell us a little about Firestarters as a story, like for dear listeners who aren't familiar with it, give us the like overview of it as a project.
The overview of the story is about, it's kind of a bit about my own community without being a true story about my community, right, because I would never do that to my family. But it's basically about 4 boys growing up in a small town with neighboring reserve, where they share the same school but come from different communities. And there's a lot of tension that can happen, racial tension, especially like if you think about all the stuff going on in Thunder Bay. If you think about Helen Betty Osborne from the Paw, it's all those tensions that come to light, especially, I feel, in small towns with neighboring reserves that have to share amenities and share schools and things like that, where they can kind of have a really big divide, especially in schools. So I was kind of exploring that. And then also trying to write a story about how kids can see themselves in the act of reconciliation. Because I also think when we hear about the word, it's taken on so much weight, the word of reconciliation, when it's really just mending relationships.
Right.
But it's so heavy now that people are kind of like, what's my role in all of that? Like, it just seems so political.
Right.
And like, what does it mean to a kid?
Yeah.
So I was kind of trying to come up with a story that kind of explains little ways of being a part of it, or not, because there's characters that are very not and like come around the hard way.
So most people, when they start their first comics projects, they like, have a duck learning how to fly or something, right, Justin? But you decided to tackle like a major, socio-political issue
Well, I think
from a
also
child's point of view.
because I was approached as a writer, and I was just like, and also with fire starters, I was thinking, you know, like, because there's a big pivotal moment where there's an arson, and these two boys get framed for it, essentially. But I was thinking, like, fire would look really cool artistically in a book, right? And I was thinking all those things because it's not on me to do it.
Right.
Like, somebody else has to do that.
All right.
So Donovan and Scott might have been excited, or they might have been like, oh, damn it.
Yashik. All right. So we're going to edit around this so that we only say it properly, right?
Just do a really rough cut so that proper pronunciation is plopped on top of.
Yeah. Here we are talking about Donovan Yashik. That'll be perfect. Okay, so how did Portage and Maine hook you up with Scott and Donovan?
Yeah.
Okay, who are both Super Pulp Science alumni. Well, I haven't had Scott on yet, but he is very interested.
And that goes, I've mentioned before, like my first big book project I got because my name was in at the art book bindery. They knew I was a graphic designer and an illustrator, and my name sat on a list for a couple weeks, and then they hooked me up with a writer, and we worked on a book. And so for young writers and artists,
I didn't even know that resource existed.
Yeah, see, but like you find like publishers and book printers, and you as an artist or illustrator or writer get your name in there, and they are the people who usually make these connections.
Yeah, it's who you know, knowing what you can do, right?
Yeah, I had no idea that existed, so I had to have like Highwater come in and say, you should write a graphic novel. And I was like, yeah, I should do that. And then they're like, here's an artist. And then Scott was like, I think he was like inundated with projects at the time. So then he brought in Donovan to help color.
Right.
So it kind of became, at first it was supposed to be just me and Scott, and then Donovan came on shortly after.
Right.
Because we were trying to do so much in such a little time, and there was 3 of us. And that was a whole other thing too, because like as a writer and even as an artist, usually you're kind of working on your own for the most part. And as an only child, that was something that was very dear to me. Like I just loved playing and drawing and writing and stuff, which is how I came to this life.
Suddenly you were on a team.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I'm on a team where I get to write a story, which was all by myself, and then Scott comes in and basically reimagines everything I just said, and it's like almost like reading it with fresh eyes because it's somebody else's interpretation of everything, and I was like, that's pretty good.
What was that experience like for you the first time you saw something you had only imagined, only seen in your own head, drawn by someone else?
At first it was a little surreal that somebody else was invested in something I wrote, because I've never seen anyone invested until like way later when they're like, oh, I loved your book or whatever, and they reach out to you in some way and you're like, oh, thanks. But to watch somebody, I'm like, this took this guy like hours to explain this one scene that I said. And it's like, and there was this one part where, because the one thing I was particular about, because I tried to be really like easygoing about artistic freedom, just because I would respect it if like, I'm like, what you see, like, you know better. Right. Artistically than I would. So I'm not going to be too like critical about, and it's a downward angle or it's this type of thing. Like I was very freeing about that and like what he thought was best. But the one thing I was really particular about was setting, because I really wanted it to be from Couchiching, which is where I'm from. So every setting is an actual building or an actual site that's from my reserve or from the town. Did you send
photo reference, or did you guys go visit together?
I Google mapped him the place so he could see like the layout. And I showed him what the store looked like the gas bar. Yeah. I showed him what the restaurant that we'd all go to looks like. And so it's like to scale, except it doesn't show you inside the store. Right. So I was trying to like tell him what it looks like inside the store. And I feel like he must have had such a headache, because I was like, no, because he's like, that's where all the math comes in, where he's trying to make it look like a 3D store. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, the aisles are facing the wrong way. It has to be the other way. And like little things like that, where I'm sure he was like, can you just let it go? And I'm like, no.
So you gave him all kinds of freedom except for the parts that were real, that you wanted to be real. Interesting.
And like grandma's house, because it's my grandma, and it's my grandma's house that I used in that thing. So he'd put the like, I think he tried to put the stairs somewhere else that was like more aesthetically pleasing. Right. And I'm like, no, her stairs are over there. I'm going to move them over. And he's like, ugh. And he does pencils and inks by hand, right? Yeah. So he was more like,
there's no shortcuts in Scott's work. Yeah. But he's a very precise draftsman, so he's the right person for a project like that. I think.
He was very I very much appreciated like when I looked in the store, because like he even had the tiles, and you could tell he was like ruler and like mathing it out, and I was like, oh man, like.
So you paint is it oils or acrylics that you use mostly? Both. Okay.
Yeah, like I started off with acrylic, and then now I just kind of moved over into oils and just like loved it. And just loved it. So I've been kind of going off on that. And so now I'll do like an underpainting in acrylic and then go over it with oil.
Oh wow. So the reason I asked that is when you see the art process that Scott's using, which is this precise pencil drafting and then the inking and then digital colors, is that difficult for you to envision? Like if you're used to seeing things the way you paint them?
It wasn't too bad. Because like he'd do the outlines and he was pretty precise with his outlines, even like the pencil sketches. But yeah, it wasn't too difficult to see where he was going. Because then he'd do that, and then I made the major changes like the steps and the aisles and all those things. And then I remember like the second, like when he did the ink, and that's when you can't change as much, right? Yeah. Because it's
hard to go back.
It's hard to go back. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then I remember there was one mistake that you don't catch on the pencil draft, which was like a certain outfit,
right?
Because there was a scene where they do a traditional sharing circle, kind of a restorative justice system. And I had the grandma there, and in the pencil sketch she was just kind of wearing a loose dress or something, which didn't look out of character or anything, and I was like, yeah, fine. But then in the ink I noticed that he had put her in a jingle dress, which is a traditional regalia, but it's for powwow. So it's a totally different ceremony that you wouldn't wear in this particular setting.
Right.
So I remember that was something that we had to change because it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
But it was like kind of an example how like in the pencil it's easy to miss it.
Right.
Whereas in the ink.
Yeah, because the pencils are gestural often, just letting out what the...
And you don't draw like little tiny bells at that point, for me to have picked up on it. So like little things like that. And then even with like, once the coloring came in, I thought that would be pretty self-explanatory, but there's like little things that came up, like it turns out none of us have ever played hockey.
Terrible Canadians.
Oh my god.
Terrible Canadians.
Full disclosure, I've never played hockey yet.
Well, ice hockey,
like just like hockey on the lake with friends, yes, but
we're
not
gonna have
like,
a serious talk after this.
No, like no gear, right?
Well, it turns out none of us knew what a hockey practice looked like, so I had to call my dad and say like, do you guys wear jerseys to like represent different teams, or are you just out in your t-shirt? Like, what do you do? So he had to like explain what a practice looks like or would be like, because I assumed that they would have played, and they assumed that one of us would have played. Like we all assumed somebody on this team.
So depending where you're from,
played,
you either know that a jingle dress is appropriate for a sharing circle, or you don't, or you know whether or not hockey practice has jerseys or not. Right?
Yeah.
So you can't really.
But none of us knew.
The whole team has to come together.
I grew up in a small hockey town, so I'm just furious right now.
Right. Tell us about hockey practice, Justin. What's the essential element of hockey practice? You're going to put it on a page. What do you think people would leave out that should be there?
You wear it, you're in full gear because you want to be protected, right? And everybody usually just you have like practice jerseys, which are usually just black or white or red or whatever. And then you use your like full jersey, like the pilot's jersey only comes out for games, so you don't use that for practice. It's a bad thing to do, to use your actual jersey during practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've all learned something.
Yeah.
Or well, you already knew it. And I feel that Dan, from his face, he knew all of these things. Mm-hmm. But we're learning together, us poor sheltered artists.
Shout out to the Pilot Mountain Pilots.
Attention, citizens.
You get a graphic novel project suggested to you. Did they have some suggestion as to what the story would be, or did you?
No, not at all.
So you just came to them, this is what I want to do it about.
Pretty much, yeah. They came up to me and said, we'd really like for you to submit something. And I said, okay. And then they said, we need a plot of about this long. But that was totally news to me, because I'm like, I don't know how to tell what a comic book page is when I'm writing it out. Like, I don't know how much each box, like that part to me was just like beyond me. I'm like, I don't know how to write a story in that way. So she just told me, Annalie, the editor there, was like, just write like a short story, like however you want to write it, that you think, like just finish the story. Don't worry about the page and how long it is. And she's like, and then from there, I'll script it out. Like, I'll help you with that.
Oh, so she did the panel breakdowns for you, or helped do that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and she was really good about it.
Yeah.
So now, and then, but the second time around, because I wrote for them again, because they're doing an anthology.
Yeah.
They basically are like, okay, now you do it.
Yeah, now you know how.
Yeah.
So did you guys go panel to panel breakdown, or did you do page beats where like this needs to happen in this page, this needs to happen in that page, and then Scott kind of went from there?
How specific were those
directions?
Yeah. They were, I don't recall the word beat being in it.
Okay.
But it was basically like, I wrote it like as if it was like a short story.
Yeah.
But it was very like literal. Like I didn't put any literary prose in it at all because like I don't need it. It's basically saying, then this guy said this and then this guy does this. Like It's very like basic.
Mm-hmm.
And then she wrote it out, but it was something like page 1, panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, overlaying, blah, blah, blah. Like whatever kind of words she chopped up for that. And then
so she let
like
you be good at what you were good at, and then
she scripted it. And then the second time when I did it, I basically just followed her lead on that. Right. So however she does it, that's how I do it. Yeah. And I've heard other people use the word beat too. Yeah. But that's just like even some of the lingo is still foreign to me where I'm like,
every community has its own stupid set of language that they're not. It's really not that complicated in the final. It's like ordering at Starbucks, right? If you've never been there, it sounds really complicated.
Sounds like gibberish.
The truth is, you're just ordering a coffee.
Yeah.
Right.
And once you find your drink, you just say that one thing over and over again, and it sounds like you're a pro, but you just kept repeating yourself. Yeah.
Sounds like you're summoning a cinnamon demon.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Now, for you, Justin, when you're laying out your pages, you're talking about beats. What's your process?
Well, yeah, I think I probably picked up story beats from just listening to you explain it over and over again. But usually, ideally, when I'm working with a writer, what I like is, they tell the story. And it's usually on this page, we just need character A stabs character B. Like that's what happens on that page. You figure out how many panels, how it breaks down. So if I can do that all in just one big panel, I'll do that. If I need 3 panels, and then one big panel below that, I'll do that. But it's up to me to kind of pace how that page works. They just tell me what needs to happen on that page.
Okay,
so it's up to me to break it up.
If I want to tell somebody about a beat, I'm basically talking about one whole page. You
one
panel
action.
it up. That's what it means.
See, my big worry is when I hear, like when you were describing them explaining what happens in every panel, is sometimes you run into writers who have 20 actions happening in panel 1. Oh yeah. 23 happening in 20. They overload the panels because as a writer, it's easy to put all that information in, but visually we can only say one thing. Yeah. Only one thing can be happening.
Dear listeners, there's a really good rule of thumb. If you're laying out your panels, remember that every character can only have one verb per panel. One verb per character per panel. And then you'll never have to worry about whether you said too much to the artist.
The superhero lands, he punches out the gang, and he comes up to the big bad guy.
All 3
panels.
That's
panel 1.
Yeah, don't no. No, don't do that. But
that happens often enough with just people who haven't worked in comics.
Yeah, I've worked on a few anthology projects where the writers are just phenomenal writers who are being asked to do comic adaptations. Yeah. And that's the first thing that shows if you haven't done a lot of, you might be a phenomenal writer, but one thing that you forget is how the mechanics of a comic book page require you to be very specific, and you have to kind of reduce it down to that base element so that we only can see one action.
That one verb rule is a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
I mean, there are ways to break it, and people who've been making comics a long time can tell you lots of different ways that you can skirt around that and make things happen. But if you look at early Jack Kirby pages, right? Every character, whether they're a main character or a background character, everyone's doing something, but they're only doing one thing. And what's amazing about his work is that if you look at background characters in his early comics work, there are other stories happening in the background.
I love when that happens.
That he's putting in that aren't in the script, right? So there might be an angry newspaper guy who isn't being paid and someone storms off in the background of a Fantastic Four story.
Oh, okay.
Right? And that's him just as an artist having fun with that same notion that if I'm putting someone in the background, they should be doing something. Otherwise, I'll just leave them out. And if they're going to be doing something, then he makes those also work as.
Remember the Mercer Meyer grasshopper and the spider?
Yes.
Every scene of Little Critter had the grasshopper and the spider doing something.
Oh yeah.
And it became this game. You'd tell the story and then you'd go back and you'd try to find them every single page.
Yeah. We were going to do that with a cat in Cassie and Tom.
The reprint, I think we're going to have to.
Hide the cat? Yeah. We kind of just forgot halfway through. We were like, oh, there's the cat.
No, we totally intended to. It just became a time thing.
Yeah. So the cat only shows up in one panel where they find it.
She's hiding in all the others. She's still there, just hiding.
Yeah. Find the cat, dear listeners. Find the cat.
Don't try to find the cat.
Super Pope.
What is the difference to you between writing a novel and writing a comic?
Oh my God. Totally different.
Yeah, but in what way? Tell us. Be deep. Be specific.
I guess when writing a novel, you have to do all of that heavy artistic work with words and without being blunt about it. So it can be kind of difficult because no one likes the unnecessary adjectives, or like if somebody says she said snarkily or whatever, like, you know what I mean? It's just like
kill
whatever.
all your adverbs there. Adverbs must die. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, but I would write that to you if you were drawing it, because then you could create that facial expression. Right. Whereas like when I write a book, I have to come up with a way of letting your mind do that without saying the literal word. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like painting with words, to be really cheesy. And it's that's kind of the difficulty of it. And then also it's kind of really hard to let that go when you're writing a script for somebody else, because then you have to use all those cheesy things you've been taught not to, or that kind of make you like, ugh. Like, you know what I mean? That just like, that's an ugly sentence.
Feels like bad writing.
Yeah. But yet that's what you need to draw something. Yeah. Like, that'd be helpful for you if I said her face is snarky or she's angry. Like, you know what I mean? I have to say it instead of being literal. You'd be like, okay, Jen.
Yeah. Well, I got a note on a comic page I was working on just recently where it was like, you know, I want her to be angrier, make her angrier, make it look like her face is scrunching up like she smells stinky feet. Yeah. Right? And now it has that direction, has nothing to do with the actual, like, quite profound action within the page. But now all I think of when I'm looking at it as the artist is like, and here's the moment where she smells someone's feet. But the actual direction creates that screwed up face, that you know, downturned, you know, pulled away feeling, which is ultimately bad writing. Like, if you put that into a serious piece of prose, it would interrupt it, but you can give that direction to an artist and it doesn't interrupt the flow. I would love to read a book and during the dramatic moment and then her face scrunched up like she smelled stinky feet. Right. This is what I'm saying. And then she stabbed him. Lovely. So, and that's the thing too, is that like if I were to write, like when I wrote Firestarters originally, I think I handed in 8 pages of writing. Yeah. Whereas if I would rewrite Firestarters where I knew there was no pictures, it would probably be 45. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much left out that I don't have to do. Yeah. But it's really hard to like get in the mindset of saying like, okay, literally, this is literally what happens. Right. Without adding all those other things that make it interesting to read. Because reading the script is not interesting at all in my mind. Well, in every panel, you know, if you're using the old adage, right? Every panel is 1,000 words, right? Then, so if you have, you know, 8 panels, then that's 8,000 words of text you would have had to write. Yeah. You didn't have to because you made Scott and Donovan do it. Yeah. Yeah. It's perfect. It's the slave labor of comics writing, basically. So you're 14 and you write a novel. Yeah. Yeah. I'm 30 now. You're 30 now. But when you were 14 and you wrote a novel, how did that happen? Tell us about that. Okay. Basically what happened, this is in the age of like dial-up, right? Yeah. So, okay, like you have to get the setting right. But what would happen is when I was young, I got into this phase of being an athlete. Attention! And I got grounded. And my mom was very strict and very like... Are you suggesting that sometimes teenagers are... Attention! Yes. And then, but also me and my mom are both very stubborn and very spiteful. And when we used to fight, it was bad because she'd be like she'd catch me smoking or something. And she knew I smoked, but she still had to ground me if she ever caught me. Right. So I get caught, or if I skipped or whatever, and she'll say, you're grounded for a week. And then I'd say, meh, like I just make some stupid comment. And then she'd be like, if you talk back to me one more time, it's 2 more weeks. And I'm like, fine. And then all of a sudden I'm grounded for a month. Right. And she's the kind that's like, very like, once I say something, that is it. Right. So if like, there's no negotiating out of it. So now I'm grounded for a month. And the way she'd ground me, and she was a single mother too, but she was very busy. Like she worked all the time. Right. So what she'd do to make sure that I'm like miserable
is she would take the dial-up cords with her, put them in her purse. She'd take the phone cords with her, or she'd just take the whole like cordless phone with her. She'd take...
I know you feel like this was horrible, but like I'm taking notes as a parent
and she's
right now.
taking like the cable like from the TV out of the cable.
Yeah.
Like she just basically like carry around all these cables in her purse when she went to meetings for like whatever
so that
she
the
was
grounding
doing.
felt like grounding.
So it was real grounding. So I couldn't talk to anyone, nothing. And then like if she's home, obviously like I couldn't have done anything. But when she was away, also she'd take all the cords with her. She like had this like trail of cords, and so I'd be home, and all I would have is Minesweeper and Word. So I got to the point, and the only time I'd see my friends is literally at school. So I'd go home, and I don't really know what prompted me. Like I've always liked writing as assignments, and I liked the creative writing aspect of it. And then when I was grounded, I was just bored, and those are my only options. And so I started writing, and I just thought, I wonder how long of a story I could write. Like I wonder how far I can get, because the longest I think I'd done at that point was like I'd buy one of those Hilroy books, and I just handwrite some stupid story and try to fill up a book. So this time I had a Word, and I kept writing and writing, but then I'd print it out and I'd bring it to school with me, and I'd let my best friends kind of read it. And then they were all like, this is awesome. And like, they'd kind of have input, and they'd say like, oh, this should happen next. Or what if this happened next? And is this person related to this person? And I'd be like, yeah, it is that person, like from high school that I didn't like. And all of a sudden she's like some villain in a story or whatever. So I do all these things, and like.
So 14-year-old you is going away, writing for hours at a time, coming back, having it peer reviewed essentially.
Yeah.
And then returning back to the keyboard.
Yes.
Every day for a month.
About. Not every single day, but
Right.
every time the feeling kind of got to me, because I'd also be playing like my music that would take overnight to download.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, so I have my like playlist of 12 songs that took me 12 hours to get, like those days.
Yeah.
Napster and Kazaa.
Yeah, I was on Napster.
Yeah.
So I was doing that stuff.
Shame on
and
you
then
guys. Shame.
It's because
I'd
you couldn't figure
write,
it out.
print. And then from there, I actually got like a binder full, and I can't remember how many pages it was. And it was pretty like rough edited. And then I just forgot about it. And like when it got really heavy, like when it started writing a lot more and more, my mom noticed I was doing this, and she was encouraging of it. And so she'd go to work and print it out for me, because like after I'd edit something, I'd need to reprint it all out to bring it to school. And that's 60 pages.
Right.
So my mom's like, stop using the house printer. Give me that, and I'm going to bring it to work and print it
There's
there
another cord.
where the ink is free. Yeah.
Another cord.
Yeah. So then she'd print it, bring it home, and then I'd go from there. And then when it was all done, I kind of put it on the shelf and forgot about it. Like I didn't think about publishing it at all. I just thought of it as just something I did. But
Okay,
my
so
mom...
For a timeline clarification, you wrote it when you were 14, or it was published when you were 14?
I published when I was 14, so I actually wrote it when I was 13.
13. All right.
And then
Now we
when I
feel
was...
even more inadequate.
Yeah.
So then my mom took it, and she sent it to Thetis out in BC.
Right.
And it's the only one she sent it to. Like she just sent it out, and she thought, if something happens, cool. If nothing happens, she won't know.
Right.
Like I don't need to be rejected.
Oh, she did.
Wow.
So she didn't tell me. She just mailed it. And then all of a sudden, like, she didn't hear anything. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, they contacted her or me and said, just so you know, we're going to go forward with the story into the second round of editing, or the second round of, approval, or just some sort of board thought of if we're going to take it or not.
Right.
And from there, she was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, even if you don't get published, making it to that circle is still pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So then that's when she told me about it. And I was like, what? That's amazing.
How did
how
did that feel to you? What was on your mind? Like before the day that your mom told you, hey, remember that story you wrote? I sent it to a publisher and they want it. Your biggest concerns were likely to be what? Like, what were you thinking of? What was going on in your life?
Like, how can I get an extra $20 to buy cigarettes without my mom knowing?
Right.
It's basically my thought process. Or trying to go to the mall,
and then
trying to think of boys. Like, I was like not, like, it was out of my head. Like, I thought it was on the shelf still.
Right.
But my mom had printed off another one and sent it off.
Right.
And then, so then she told me about it, and I think I was just in shock, and I was kind of like, well, that's cool, and that's interesting, and I didn't really think much of it, and I didn't think it was going to go beyond that. And then they came back, and I think I got a call or a letter or an email, I can't remember which, from Richard Van Camp.
Yeah.
Because he was on the panel at the time.
Yeah.
And he was like, you're an amazing young woman, blah, 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 and just kind of like fluffed me up because
Yeah.
he's such a good cheerleader. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, some famous person.
Talented fella too, though. Yeah.
Yeah. And then to me, he was like famous, and I was just like super impressed by that. So then I actually got to meet him because he came to Winnipeg, and then all of a sudden they published it. So then this whole thing opened up, all because my mom grounded me and all because my mom sent it off.
So parents are right.
Yeah.
This is what we're
And see,
figuring
now
out.
I'm a parent, and now I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But until then, she was the enemy.
Yeah.
Science.
Okay, so this actually circles back around to something you said earlier and we've talked about before, where art is not presented as a possibility, right? It's you're discouraged as a young person from pursuing art or writing or the creative arts as a job. Is it, to you, does that feel like the power chords? Like it's just someone, they have your best interest at heart, but it feels awful?
Yeah.
Or is it wrong-headed? Is it a mistake?
I think it's a well-intended mistake. So like with all the best intentions, and I think because I was a writer too, and so I think like a lot of it was like focus on that because you've already like succeeded in some way. Like clearly you're gonna grow up and do that forever. Like, you know what I mean? So it was kind of, I was pushed towards that. But to be honest, most of my time was always spent doing art, not writing.
Right.
So like I'd draw in, like in my room, I remember like every year for Christmas and birthdays, I'd ask for like art stuff. And I would remember drawing like every single day when I was like 8. I had like this little chalkboard that ended up getting like worn out because I'd like draw on the chalkboard every single day.
Awesome. Does your family get annoyed that you only ever ask for art supplies for Christmas?
No, I think they were pretty happy about it because it's easy and it makes you feel good as a parent that you're like doing arts and crafts.
It's a little too bad that like I was thinking like what you just said about like art not necessarily being encouraged when we're growing up, but like all those other things that are like, again, I grew up in a hockey town. How many kids are, they pour so much time, money, and effort into hockey? That's never going to be a career. It's like winning the lottery when it is. Like every once in a while it is, but like.
But it doesn't stop us from encouraging people to play hockey, right? Not everyone's going to be in the NHL.
Pouring your life into hockey for
that's a hockey thing,
years
right?
as you grow up. Like that's not going to be a thing when you're older, but like why do we do that? Why do we do that?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Jen, why do we do that?
Well, I also think it's just because, like, as a parent, you're like, look at my kid doing physical activity and not being involved in gangs and stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think we're kind of programmed into thinking that those out-of-school activities and keeping kids busy keeps them from doing drugs because it's like, well, you can't smoke pot because you have to go, play hockey tomorrow. And I'm sure that doesn't, like, stop anybody.
It doesn't stop the hockey teams.
Yeah.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? They still do their dumb things, but it might keep you out of, like, different kinds of trouble. Maybe. I don't know. But that's just kind of the mentality as a parent. You think if you keep your kid busy, they won't get in trouble. And so I think like my parents might have thought of art in the same way because I was not a hockey kid and I was not sporty or athletic in any way. So I do art, and I think they just encourage that because me doing that is better than the alternative.
And they know what you're doing with your time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did get encouraged.
But they didn't want me to do it as a job.
No.
Like they were not being like, you should go to art school. Like that was not a conversation.
Why do we do that?
Like
my parents
I think
had the best
if I said
intentions.
fine art school, I think my mom would have been supportive, but I think my mom would have also been apprehensive.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's not like she was like, no, absolutely not. But it's just like, even like it was ingrained in my mind. There's no point in that. Like that was just ingrained in me.
I think it is true though. Like if you're good at math and your parents suggest that you become an accountant, they can see what the job will be at the end of that tunnel.
Yeah.
If you want to, do sculpture or painting or music, they can't imagine what that job is. They can't put it into a little box. And I guess maybe stability being the thing that we want for our children, not having to worry about that stuff. But even still, your example about hockey has got me thinking about it. Like, think of the number of things that we encourage our kids to spend their time doing that have zero long-term results. But the ability to write a story or to draw a picture is introspective. Like it forces you to see the world, to think about the world, to represent the world, and as a result, think about who you are and what that says about you. And it's, I think one could argue that it's at least as important to do that mental exercise as that physical exercise.
And also like flexes your empathy muscle a lot more than anything else would.
Yeah. Huh. But maybe we don't need that. Maybe society shouldn't have people that feel too much because then we can't control them, right? That's the trick. Is that it? So what's your future as a comic book maker? What do you see? It's 5 years from today.
And everything goes perfect in this 5 years? Is that my...
Yeah.
Well, the things that can go wrong are as imaginary as the things that can go right. So let's imagine them go right.
Okay. So if everything goes right, I am just a natural born artist and I just learn how to do graphics. I take to it really easily. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but that's if everything goes perfectly right, it just happens fairly easily, but I'm sure it won't. But I'd be able to draw.
Where's that hesitation come from?
Just because I don't want to be overconfident or expect perfection.
Right.
Because I think I need to anticipate rejection and be okay with it, or anticipate struggle and be okay with it and not give up because of it.
Right.
Whereas like I think a lot of people, if they're not good at something, it's too easy to be like, oh, well, I'm not good at it, so I'll do something else.
So stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have that mentality, but it'd be really nice if it comes easy because then I can just go further faster. But so on the like super right path in air quotes, I want it to be easy for me, but I know it won't be because there's going to be challenges and it's a totally different artistic thing I have to learn and a skill I need to develop that's different from painting or even just pencil drawing or anything like that. But I want to be able to do it because what I'm hoping will happen is I will be able to do stories that I write and draw on my own. And that if I have something that is, for the most part, complete, I can probably have better chances of publishing into other places as well because I don't have to worry about always partnering up. Even though I love that aspect, I don't want to have to rely on it.
Yeah, don't rely. Yeah. So what are the stories? What aspect of your own art compared with your writing do you think will be different now that you've seen someone else do it? Like, is there a missing element that you think that adding your own work to it will?
I don't know, because to be honest, I don't know what it's going to look like yet.
Right.
Because I've never done digital, so I'm not sure how my art will translate. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that it's like, because what I see in my brain and what's going to come out on the page are going to be totally different things, right?
So you want to learn a digital tool set? You don't want to do traditional paintings as comics? You want to do digital paintings as comics?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, like I have no idea because like I feel like every single graphic novel artist has literally a different style completely. Yeah. Like some people do digital from start to finish. Some people will pencil, ink, and color by hand or color digitally or like, you know what I mean? Like everyone's different.
Or like this book we're looking at here, this Gregory and Justin, right?
Or
like
just like painting a whole thing,
paintings.
which I never anticipated being a thing, which I don't think I don't know if I could do that to be completely honest. Right. But then, just thinking of all those things and to see how my style will develop is going to be something that I'm completely open to, but also not going to be able to really guess. Right. Like what I'm assuming is that if I was to guess what my style will be, I think I'm going to do pencil, ink, and then color online. But I mean, maybe I'm going to do digital start to finish. Like I have no idea. Right. Because every time I try to teach myself digital, I get a huge migraine. Right. Because it's just so frustrating. I don't know what these like cursors, like that's the one thing, like I can self-teach myself with pencil and like tools, but when it comes to like technology for some reason, like it doesn't click for me naturally that I'm just frustrated. So I don't know how it's going to work out. Oh.
All the programs I know really, really well. Most of them were from like graphic design or in video games. Like I had to use them for a specific thing. Me going out of my way and learning a program like never happens. It's always like it was in a situation where I had to learn to use it or I was taught how to use it. So like my plan for next year is Red River is kind of they're breaking up their programs a bit so you can just take certain classes. So I'm going to be learning 3D because it's something I've always wanted to learn, something I know I could learn on by myself, but I don't want that frustration. So I'm going to be taking like a night class to learn it because I want that like classroom environment. I want somebody kind of, do this to start with, and then we'll get into that, and then we'll get into that. Right.
Someone who's not you that you're accountable to will also help.
Yeah.
Right.
So I totally understand, like, just like the blank sheet of like, learning Photoshop by like just with no prompts is like, oh my God. It's so huge and like confusing. But
so that's kind of where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. I saw some stats somewhere that if you took all of the functions of Photoshop, right, multiplied by all the other functions of Photoshop, is like 1 trillion ways that you can use Photoshop. Like 1 trillion.
That's exciting, and also makes my
That's
brain
what
already like
me.
tingle.
I just use it basically as an infinite collage tool, and every year like 2 or 3 more sort of functions of the overall program are like, oh wow, that's a really better
You're
way to do
using
that.
a bulldozer to make a sandcastle.
That's right.
Yeah.
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 But sometimes it has that laser focus, right? Sometimes you can do some really precise surgery with it, which is I like.
Well, there's some pretty cool stuff you like, because I've tried to do the like online tutorial thing where I like watch other people and they're like, this is how you use Photoshop, and then they do something. I'm like, that looks really cool and useful. I wish I could do that. And I try to do that. I'm like, I can't do that.
Right.
Like, I don't know what you're doing. Like, I need like step 1. But even step 1, like, it's just like, you just need somebody who knows how to do it. That's kind of in the same realm as you to use it the way you want to use it. Because me doing photo retouching, like, that looks cool, but like, I don't need that part of it. Like, you know what I mean? And even like the people that are drawing from scratch, I'm like, that looks really cool, and you're doing all these layers, but I don't know what any of that means. And like, even as you're explaining it, it's just mush in my brain. Like, I don't understand. Like, I need to actually like sit down with somebody and do it.
But none of that, what I find fascinating is none of those apprehensions are stopping you from trying to make comics.
Yeah.
And I think that the majority of people, those are the reasons they don't.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the difference? What's the secret? How come you can decide and others will give up?
I think, I don't want to be pessimistic, but I feel like there's a lot of people living out their fear more than they are living out their drive.
Right.
And so, and I feel like, and there was a time when I feel like I did that too, like when I didn't want to go to art school and I wanted to pursue, and I don't regret any of the skills I have because it's made me professional. And I feel like if I didn't have all those jobs and administrative things that I've done in my life, that I would have a hard time networking. I'd have a hard time being professional and meeting contracts and deadlines and having like mutual respect in a professional level. So I'm really glad I have that background. But at the same time, there came a point where I was sitting at work and I feel like the further I'm going and advancing in this life, like the money is not, like I was chasing money for a long time. And I feel like as a student or a young person, that's kind of what you're trained to do because you want that security and you want those nice things. And you want to feel like if I want something, I don't have to feel like I have to save up to have it. Like if I want something, I go get it. Right. But then it became to a point where I'm like, I wake up waiting for 4:30. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, that's no way to live. And it's not worth it anymore. So then I was just kind of like, I'd rather do what I want to do instead of waiting until I retire to do it. Because like who wants, like as much as like I hope I'm still painting when I'm 60, but I don't want to live a whole life I didn't want to live just to pay my dues to paint.
Right.
When I'm like, there's so many people out there that are doing it, so I'm going to do it.
Super Pope.
Justin, tell us about your retirement.
I retired at 27 because, well, I'm still working, but the whole idea that you retire so you can do what you want, right? I know people who have retired and they have no hobbies and like there was nothing waiting for them at retirement. And so they went back to work. They unretired and went back to work until they were basically forced to retire again. And then I don't know what they're doing with themselves. I always thought like when you retire, you're going to like, that's when you do what you're passionate about. So at 27, I left my job at a video game company, and I'm doing exactly what I thought I'd be doing when I retire. I'm painting all day, and then I go to events and I sell my paintings and sell my books. I make books and then I go sell them. I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do if I didn't have a day job.
Right. You turned it into your day job.
It turned it into a day job. Yeah, it became the day job. It became job number 2 while I was working full time, and then I was just like, well, why am I working 2 jobs? I'll just work the one that I like more.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of what I feel like I'm doing right now. Like taking a year off that life to pursue this one.
And so after this year, then, you know, for Justin too, or for me, if you got hit by a bus, right?
Sorry.
If you got hit by a bus, right, you'll at least know that you spent the last year doing what you were wanting to do.
Like I feel more like, and I remember because I've only been retired for 3 weeks.
Right.
I'm new.
New to retirement.
But I remember when I made the decision and it felt right and it was scary, but I saved up money and so that I can have time because I know I'm not going to make money right out the gate or whatever, right? But I wake up feeling Like I also was like, okay, you need a schedule because I don't want to be in that mode where I sleep in too much or I just take forever doing my social media stuff and then I don't do anything productive. And then all of a sudden I'm like, what am I doing?
Right.
So I tried to make a schedule, but then I realized after the first week that I didn't need it. Like I wake up and I'm already motivated and I already know what I want to do.
So you were afraid that the time would be misused, but once you realized you had it, you didn't want to waste it.
Yeah.
My big fear was always not that I would sleep in, but then I would work till 3, 4 in the morning and then wake up at 2 in the afternoon. You know, like I reversed my sleep schedule at one point, and that was kind of scary.
Yeah, that's when you're working.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have minded that, but the thing is I have a kid.
There you go. Yeah.
so my precious hours are when he's in daycare.
Yeah.
And then I have the 3 hours of family time that I feel more present in.
Yeah.
Because whereas when I came home from work, I was like exhausted mentally. I just was like looking forward to 4:30, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to my kid eating and just being out of my hair so I can do the things I wanted. But at the same time, I can't mentally be in painting when I have a 3-year-old because he either wants to paint with me and it's oil and I can't let him.
Yeah.
Or he's making him and I can't like not watch him. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, and then by the time 8 o'clock rolls around and he's actually sleeping, I'm tired and I want to just let my brain melt and go to bed.
So you think it sounds like you are feeling like a better parent, more engaged parent now.
Yeah, because I'm doing what I like. I'm learning again, which is great. And then I'm also doing what I love. And every time I like finish a painting, or if I'm like right now I'm working on a contract with MF to do editing an anthology. So I'm still like being able to use that muscle, like of my administrative life and emailing people and bugging them professionally to get their stuff in or whatever, you know what I mean? So I still get to use all those skills if I'm not in the mood to do art, or if I'm not in a creative mood, I can still do other things. Like, so I have my hands in everything and I'm talking to people and it's just been fulfilling so that when my son does come home, I'm engaged, we're watching movies together, I'm feeding him, I put him to bed, and sometimes I do work until 11 to finish something too, but I have that energy again.
Right. Because you invested in it.
Yeah, because I don't feel like I'm putting all my soul and energy into something that's not fulfilling. But now that I'm fulfilled, I feel like a lot more energetic. But again, I'm new. It's been 3 weeks.
What do you think advice you would give to people who are feeling caught by their day job but don't have the opportunity to leave it? You know, you can't just, it's impractical for most people to just say, okay, screw this. I'm just going to run off and, you know, sit in the studio and paint nudes instead, right? What do you say to those people? Like, how do you not resent the work you must do in order to make space for the work that you must do for yourself?
Well, the reason why I left wasn't just because I was like flip the table, but like it was very, you know, like there's some moments where opportunity and circumstance just line up perfectly that it's kind of like jump now or you're never going to jump. Like, you know what I mean? So I took that jump. So I feel like if you see your life lining up that way, that you should go for it if it fits. But before it fits, like even last year when I was working on, like when Highwater approached me to do that work, a part of me was like, where am I going to find the hours in the day? Because this is when I was working full time, coming home tired. And I was like, I can't. But what I would do was I'd set dates. So basically like kind of, I think it was every Wednesday, because I had a 4-month time window, I think, to do this contract, because I needed to know what my time frame was that I can put into it. So I had 4 months, and my mom helped me out. And so every Wednesday, which was the best day for her, she would pick up my son from daycare and keep him overnight.
Oh, wow.
So from work, I would leave work knowing I'm going to go write, and I'd go to a library, because at the time I needed to be away from home. Because another thing I noticed is if I come home, especially if I work all day, I feel like I have to do the dishes. Like I have to pick up because there's stuff you have to do that you don't want to do at 11 at night.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like I need to have all that set up and then I'll write, and then all of a sudden it's 9:30.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I had to be away from the home in order to like focus and write. And so and then Wednesday was the night that my local library was open late. So I kind of lined everything up. Yeah. So that I'd stay on the late nights of the library, and it was fairly quiet, do my thing, write things out, concentrate, and then go home. And then, so I think if you're in a place where you still need to do your 9 to 5, if you give yourself like a scheduled time that you allow yourself to do creative endeavors and ignore home life and ignore all those things, then it kind of prepares you for the rest of your week instead of just trying to scatter things around. Totally.
Well, it sounds like in order to make things, you didn't worry about the muse, right? You didn't wait for some wonderful epiphany to arrive. You just said, here's when it's time to work.
Yeah.
And here's when it's time to do something else.
Yeah, basically. And I think, like with creative blocks, or if you don't have a story and an opportunity comes, like just like say yes more often. Because that's another thing I learned too, is that just by like agreeing to do things, more opportunity more comes to you if you say yes. And now that I've given myself all this time, I say yes a lot more often. Whereas like if I was still in my old life, I wouldn't be here doing this right now. Mm-hmm. So this is an opportunity that came because of saying yes more.
We often say that about for visual artists, like events. Like we sign up for every single little market and convention and thing that we can. And what that does is it drives you to prep for that event and try to have something new, try to do something different for that event. And once you have all those events lined up, you don't realize how much work you're getting done in between. You're just surviving, you're getting prepped for the next event, the next event, the next event. Before you know it, you've done like quadruple the work that you would have if you said no to all those events and just tried to get stuff done, It drives you. It lights a fire under your butt to get things sorted for that.
So Justin, you think signing up for all those events creates an internal deadline?
I think so, absolutely. Like once I started doing conventions, my productivity went tenfold because I had somewhere where all that drive and passion was ending up.
Right.
Before it was for me and I was still doing stuff, but now that I knew October 30th, I'm going to the Winnipeg Comic-Con, and a couple thousand people are going to see my stuff. I want more than just 2 paintings. I want 12 and a little comic book and postcards and
right.
Yeah,
amazing.
So yeah, saying yes to opportunities and events, I think is huge if you want to be getting things done.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a great note to end it on, everybody. Just say yes to the opportunities that are presented to you. Thank you, Jen, for being on the show. Thank you, Justin, for putting up with me at the studio. Those people who are listening, I want you to join the fight and make comics.